Yo, welcome to another episode of Unpredictable Thoughts Podcast. Your boy Trouble's in the building, doing the damn thing, not doing anything at all. Kind of solo dolo today. Really, not really, but this should be a special episode. We're drinking 1800 tequila, the big bottle. Maya, she is not in the building today. Maya, the designing agent, she working. She got like 3 to 4, 10 jobs. So, she out here hustling, doing the damn thing like Virgos, what we do best. This would be episode 65, 64, 60. Yeah, it'd be 65. Last episode, we talked about awareness of like suicide awareness and ovarian cancer awareness. And I couldn't get someone to talk about ovarian cancer. I don't know. Like, I didn't promote it the way I should have, and that's probably a fault on my behalf, but I just felt as though being a male, it was just kind of hard to be like, hey, do you want to come and talk about ovarian cancer? So I didn't push it like I did suicide awareness. I probably just need better guidance in that area. So I still will be donating to the ovarian cancer research committee, counseling. I don't even know, but I will still be donating to them, and I'll still be donating to the Suicide Awareness Foundation as well. So with that being said, since I was not able to cover the whole ovarian cancer, we did get some counselors, some suicide awareness counselors. So today we'll be talking about that. Got Momdukes.
Hey.
We got Ramona.
Hello.
A.K.A. Mama Pickett. And we got Joey.
Hey there.
So introduce yourselves. A little background.
Oh, well, hey, I'm Joey, and so I've been counseling now. I just finished my master's, so I'm doing postmaster's work. I've been counseling, I guess, professionally for almost 2 years, so I'm still very new in the field of counseling. I'm finishing up my licensure requirements, and I really love kind of helping and being in that field. And so I'm kind of coming from that angle. I went to University of Baltimore, so I'm really connected to Baltimore City. I feel really almost a sense of duty to, support the city that I work for and live in. And, if I do leave Baltimore, I've been here for 9 years now, but if I do,
Oh, wow.
and I don't really see myself going anywhere, but I'd like to think that I had some kind of positive impact.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what keeps me motivated in that work.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's me, and that's kind of the angle that I guess I'll be coming from today.
Yay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm Ramona Pickett. I am a transplant into Baltimore. Been here about a year.
Mm-hmm.
My background is I'm an elder in ministry. Been in ministry as a leader for about 5 years now. However, my passion is people. People and the healthiness of people, mind, body, and spirit. So I'm coming from that angle. My ministry is called Let's Talk About It. It's not a church. It is one-on-one or group, depending on what's necessary at the time. But that's the angle I'm coming from.
Oh, so the church and the professional angle. I like this. Y'all can collide a little bit, huh? It's
I don't think
I like
so.
to coincide.
Yeah.
Collide and coincide.
Collaborate. I like collaborate.
collaborate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Interesting.
we're definitely at the same table.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I will agree about that. So as far as Joey, a lot of people don't know as far as within therapy, a lot of people think you just wind up getting your master's. You go to school, get your master's, and you can do counseling, you can do therapy, but that's not the case. You have to go through other licenses and certifications.
Yes. Yeah, the licensure requirements are, vast. We could have a whole podcast alone on the processes to become a mental health professional, right? Because there's that whole kind of different lobbying bureaucracy of I have a master's in psychology, but I can't call myself a psychologist because I don't have a doctorate in psychology.
What?
Only doctors in psychology are psychologists.
Right.
I'm a counselor, I'm a therapist, I'm a clinician, I'm a helper, but I'm not a psychologist, which is a variable that master's level counseling is actually a relatively new field. And again, whole other tangent of conversation that could continue to go down, but master's level counseling wasn't really available, until recently. People used to think, oh, I'll go see a shrink, I'll go see a doctor if I have these kind of more complex, more complicated mental health issues that my primary can't help me with. But now master's level counseling, I think, has become, I don't know, more mainstream, more
Prevalent?
yes, prevalent. I want to say dominant even in the field.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the main wave now of people who are seeking out mental health professionals. They tend to be master's level experts, in that kind of range.
Yeah.
Which is maybe a reflection on some people it being more approachable, right? And how it's more available. It's not just like this upper tier of only belongs to those who can get a doctorate kind of thing. So it feels. When I was a kid, I thought I'd have to go to school to become a doctor.
Right.
And so getting a master's was actually pretty exciting to me because in terms of formal education, I could choose to stop here and I'm qualified.
Okay.
And I'm, I'm in it. I just have to do my counseling hours and get my licensing hours finalized. But so that's... Like I said, that's a whole other... I'm kind of trailing off here thinking about all the licensure requirements. But yes, there's a lot to it, and the unfortunate thing about it, it takes money to make money. Like, it's not like it's the most... I'm not a Kardashian or something. I'm not going to become... get my own island one day. Pretty humble career.
Yeah.
But also, you have to invest in it, and student loans and whatever, scholarships, however you get there, grants, hopefully. Get support, but it does take an investment, so it is a specialized field.
Got it.
Yeah.
Are there different state requirements?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing that's like licensure portability. Like, I operate in Maryland. There are certain rules of if I were to, I don't know, say move to New Mexico, California, their state requirements might be separate. Maybe I didn't take enough courses in diversity regarding indigenous populations in New Mexico or something. Maybe they would require me to know more about serving a population of people who live on reservations, or so I might have to go back to school. I can't just necessarily pick up my stuff and say, nope, now I'm going to go work in North Dakota. They might have different rules. So it's a little restrictive in that way. It's, like I said, a lot of political stuff that maybe I don't even understand the full of. But, yeah, so you kind of have to determine, okay, I'm going to be a Maryland state, because each state board approves your license. So I have a board of psychology associate license, which means I'm working under a psychologist, right? And then I'm getting my own independent counseling license. So that's kind of a separate LCPC, clinical professional counseling track. You do graduate work, and then when you get certain hours, the G becomes a C, essentially. So that's kind of where I am. Yeah.
Now, with Ramona, like, as far as you said, the ministry,
Yes.
is that as complex as Joey's, or
No. Actually, it's a lot simpler to a degree, because once a person's a pastor is able to do pastoral counseling.
Okay.
So there is no license required except for your ministry license. I recently found out there is insurance involved. You can get insurance for pastoring and counseling, and that's just to protect the. I want to say the building, but that's not what it protects you, and it protects the agency that you're assigned to. Just in
The
case.
church?
If necessary. People sue the church all the time.
Liability stuff. Yeah.
Whatever. You never know who you're going to offend.
Yeah.
So you can get insured to counsel as a pastor, and that's something I just recently found out about. I think there needs to be a collaboration between the church and the professional state side of it, so that we can work hand in hand, because some cases require both.
Yeah, you can't just pray the pain away.
You can't just pray it away, and you can't talk it away either. So that's why it takes both. Some things take a little deeper study than just, let's just pray this away, let's just fast this away, let's just read the Bible away. Sometimes it's deeper and more deep-seated than that, and it can take someone who is trained clinically to see if there's a personality shift, if there's a chemical shift. So we need to work together. Sometimes it is chemical, and there's some people are healed immediately. Some people requires work, and the work entails someone outside of that person saying, hey, you need more help than what I can give you. And that's when the state and the licensed clinicians in the church need to come together to be a unit to help someone feel better.
That was deep. I didn't even know where to go with this now. I really like that. I really do.
It makes sense because sometimes, I think in that scenario, it's where you're bridging. So you're bridging your opportunities, or you're bridging the help.
Yes.
So, okay, I got them this far, and then now I need someone else to take them, this far. Like from a religious standpoint, like you can say that, okay, well, something is wrong. But then, as you mentioned, like the chemical, or like the chemical imbalance, or like it could be a multitude of things, and you're praying, but the blessing may not come from just the prayer. The blessing could come from the professional that is able to, shine light on the situation, understand it a little more, and then get you enlightened. So, okay, now I know that there is an additional step or another way that I can look at this, so you can get them to that professional maybe a little bit sooner.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that's good. So I don't know if I said this, but the purpose of this podcast, suicide awareness, but I don't want to be all dark and gloomy about this. So we will talk about suicide awareness, suicide prevention, but we just therapy and mental illness, right?
Mental health and
mental
the
health.
therapy.
Yeah, I guess one of the first questions is depression a mindset?
Yeah. Is it a mindset, or what is it more of, if it's not just that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly a lot of variables, right, and factors. It's
Please start talking about serotonin levels and environmental and things of that nature. I believe it is a mindset. Yeah.
It definitely could feel like a lens that people wear. It kind of changes the vision, the color of everything that you see, right? It kind of feels gray. I mean, honestly, I've even said in session, like, sounds like you're seeing the world in shit tinted glasses sometimes. Ooh, we got to figure out how to get that out of your vision. And it definitely could be some kind of chemical imbalance as part of it, maybe. I don't necessarily operate from that scope. I'm not a medication manager or anything like that. I don't have that operating procedure, so I think more about it from a behavioral standpoint. What is it that people are doing?
Correct.
Yes.
How do they act? And of course, when people are depressed, they tend to be amotivated, meaning they don't even want to do anything.
Yeah, which creates other other avalanches in life or whatnot.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes even say, okay, they say that this depression, it's just like this feeling, these heavy thoughts are staying with me. I can't get rid of them.
Yeah.
And I kind of operate from an ACT standpoint, so it's called acceptance and commitment therapy, which is more focused on behavior and what we're doing, right, and what we care about, and kind of making moves towards what we value and what's meaningful and purposeful in life. Because I ultimately believe when we take steps towards what we care about, take steps away from what's destructive, right, we ultimately organically feel happier and feel more satisfied and enriched in our lives. So even if we can't move the thoughts away, the feeling, maybe I still feel depressed. Maybe I'm still depressed. And I took my daughter out to the movies or whatever. And I also went to Atlantic City for the weekend with my friends. Whatever the example, you can bring that feeling with you. It's fine. Put it, pack it in a suitcase and take it to Atlantic City as long as you're still doing something fun, right?
Yeah. You had a great analogy one time. You was like, I'm not sure if it was depression, but you said it's kind of like them unwanted neighbors that knocks on your door.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big metaphor guy. I love like visual language. All we have in therapy really is our words. So I can't really examine a lot of the actions. I'm in a room with someone. I can't go to their house and see how dirty their kitchen is or help them do their dishes or what. I have to get them to do that.
Yeah.
So I talk them through what's the obstacle, what's getting in the way. But I also say, like, what's the smallest little bit of something you could do that would make a change? If you're depressed and laying in bed, can you get your feet onto the floor? Well, you've already done that. Can you stand up? Now you're into the bathroom. Now you're outside. Now you're around the block. Build on that.
Baby steps.
Yes.
Small shaky steps are still steps forward.
Yeah, that is true.
But get back to the metaphor about unwanted house guests. I like to approach about it depression as like an unwanted guest that you didn't invite to dinner that shows up anyway, right? So they knock on the door and you're like, oh, I don't have enough food. Maybe I can turn the lights off. Maybe I can pretend I'm not home, right? But then the guest is going pound, pound, pound. Maybe they didn't hear me. Oh, maybe the back door is unlocked. I can go in that way. Maybe I can look through the window and see if they're home. Still, depression's still trying to find a way in. The more you resist, the stronger it tries to get in. See if you can, give a little, move your chairs aside, put a table setting up for depression, have them eat dinner with you, and maybe they'll probably go away a little satisfied because you noticed them, you acknowledged them, you gave them space.
So face it.
Face it. But
Wow.
it takes energy. It takes you being open and vulnerable to that experience. I mean,
Like, damn, I'm
acknowledging that
depressed.
you're depressed.
Yeah.
Even being able to say that sometimes is too much for people.
Yeah, you go from the why to the what. That's what I just wrote down. You go from the why because we get stuck in. Everybody suffers from depression at some level at some point in their life because
Correct,
it's
yeah.
usually some emotional letdown, and that either you dwelled on or did not chose not to dwell upon. So, and I know that when I struggle with it, I'm stuck in the why. Like, why did this happen? Why did it happen to me? Why will it happen again? I get stuck. It's very self-centered. It's a self-centered emotion. And if you get out of the why and start saying, what can I do different? Which is still kind of on the same level, but instead of just the what, you need to take another action and move to something that separates you from the initial why. So if my depression is stemmed on the fact that I didn't get a promotion on my job, then I can stay stuck in that and look at everybody else got promoted around me, because that's what the why usually does.
Yeah.
Like, why did
they didn't get promoted.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's
Well,
what
I got so much dirt on this person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And instead of using that as your motivator, focus then on what can I change to make things differently.
Or what I didn't do.
Or next. You don't even really want to focus on what you didn't do, because then that can trigger some other things.
Yeah.
Well,
Because then it's still self-centered. It's self-centered in the negative. You want to move toward
To the
something positive. So instead of congratulate the person, find something else that you like to do besides work. Because a lot of people, if work is what their nucleus is, find something outside of that nucleus that you can focus on to find your happy place.
Got it.
You have to find your happy place that's away from what's depressing you.
Yeah.
I tell people, I said, journal, go to the library, go for a walk, cook something that you've never cooked before to get your brain thinking of something other than that why, and staying in that depressed place.
That's such a good point. Like, valued action. That's what I say all the time. What, are your actions valuable? Would
Exactly.
You look,
and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes for me, I'll just go to PetSmart and look at the cats that people have dropped off, and I'm like, oh, look
That'll
at the
cure
cats,
anything, right?
and that just takes me away from me, because now I'm like, that cat situation is way worse than my situation, because they're sitting in a box, literally a box, waiting for somebody to feed them. They don't have nobody to love, blah blah blah. So that takes the focus off of me, because that self-centeredness part of depression is what keeps us depressed.
That is true.
Mike,
Like,
you gotta bring the mic up.
my mindset had
I could have pulled it to you.
this year has been really not like what could I have done better, but what can I do to be better?
Okay.
Not just in this particular instance, but like just trying to be like a better person in general. I know when you post for jobs or you apply for jobs and like you don't hear things back, like for me, like that was like kind of a eye opener, because I'm like, what do you mean like I'm not getting
What you
this?
mean?
But then like I understand that there's like another layer or another aspect, so it's not just like your credentials. It's okay, like are you gonna fit in? Like some of those questions are behavioral in
Yes.
the interview process. So I know that you're good in Excel and I know that you can build, PowerPoint presentations, but am I going to have to spoon feed you every task? So my team is set up, where we know what we're going to do. Like I'm not saying, hey, did you do XYZ? So is it, that you're going to take the information and, make it your own and run with it? Or do I have to, like check up on you? I don't have time to, check up on everyone. So now being, the person that hires, now I understand that it's not just, like the fancy words or like all the awards that you've gotten before. I know that it's more of, are you going to fit in with the team? Are you going to and when I'm saying that, I'm thinking back to my team, like, is it something that someone is going to do that's going to have you in my office all the time, like, oh, I don't like the way Chris said this or does this or whatever. It's more of like being a group, because I can teach you how to build a spreadsheet. I can teach you how to build a presentation, but do you understand the logic behind what you're doing and why you're doing it? And then we can go from there. But one of the questions that I had for you guys was like, how do you guys stay grounded? Like, do you take it? Yeah, do you take it all in? I know, like I have a friend that is like it's like everything that's wrong in the world is like right in her
Front yard.
Yeah, and I'm like,
And her plate.
like it can't be that bad. And I know for me, like it was like kind of heavy for me to where like if I even saw her name, I would just be like, oh my gosh. And I would just like, look at the phone, waiting for it to, go to voicemail. Then she would call my work phone. Then she would call my desk phone. And I'm like, I don't have it. So like for you guys, when you're seeing multiple people throughout the day,
And sometimes with no breaks.
yeah. So like, how do you guys, not take on that negative energy and still be,
Good for your next client too.
or even good for yourself?
Yeah.
I mean, burnout's definitely something that we all mention and talk about in the field. I think it's important that we're open and honest, right? So I love that we're having conversations even now about mental health and encouraging people to talk about it. That's the point. The more that you share, I have so many clients today, or it feels overwhelming, or me personally, I try my best to end the session with enough time if I need to use the bathroom or inhale an avocado or put a fistful of almonds in my face or something. Whatever, just a little. Sometimes just take a good deep breath, take a moment to give myself some compassion, some gratitude, and also recognize I'm just one support in a person's journey. There's only so much that I can do, and that helps buy me a little relief. Okay. I'm not necessarily responsible for all the things that people do or don't do. I just help guide and encourage. You know, I can't control. I can only influence. That's,
okay. I like that.
Yeah.
So that helps buy me back some, not taking that home and stressing out. But of course it happens. Especially people who are really depressed, people who are suicidal, things like that. I start to wonder, did they follow through with the safety contract? Did they reach out to their mom or dad or brother, sister? Did they let someone else in? Or are they hiding alone? And isolation's one of those things that you have to look out for. I was thinking about that when you were talking about being part of a team at work. Even just being part of a community helps foster motivation and wellness. Yeah. So how do I get through it? I don't go through it alone. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
That kind of goes to my next question of the importance of having they said confidant.
Yes.
A confidant that you can be transparent with.
Yeah.
Like,
I think you need many.
Yes.
I think one person is too much. It's too much for one person. Because sometimes in counseling, yours is more 9 to 5. I'm using it as an example.
Right.
As 9 to 5. Right. However, mine is they have access to my cell phone.
yeah.
So I have to decide when I'm already half full, I have to not answer my phone and let it go to voicemail. Because if I don't, then that's going to take me lower. And then the person may not answer the phone when I call them. Because they'll know they can. One thing I've learned is some people that are connected can feel each other. So even if they're not in the same room, they can feel each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So usually if I call somebody first, it's for one or two reasons. I'm feeling you, or you better be feeling me because I need you right now. So if I don't answer my phone, folks know that I'm going to call them back. That's the one I will get back to you. But I expect people to answer the phone when I call because I don't do it often. I don't reach out often. So, but also knowing that you do need a team. You need a community of people that if that one person doesn't answer the phone, you have somebody else you can talk to. People, especially in the church, will say all the time, all I need is Jesus. But he will also guide you in the direction of whom you can talk to that's tangible. Because we need that tangible presence. We need that tangible one-on-one. If not, he wouldn't have created two people. Remember, it says in the Bible, he said, man is by himself. It's not good for man to be alone. That means man needs man. Mankind needs mankind. So
human needs human.
Human needs human.
A squirrel needs a squirrel.
Exactly. He created everything else in pairs, but at that time, man was by himself. So if a person thinks that they can do it by themselves, then they're in error. And that in itself leaves room to depression and many other things that contribute to mental illness.
Just entitlement, arrogance, self-centered. What's the other words?
Narcissism,
selfishness.
Some people are just kind of blind to it, not even aware, just kind of going through the motions. And
it's sad,
denial, right?
It's truly sad. It's truly sad, too.
That was, I guess, like one of my other questions. So, like, sometimes do you see people, I guess, like, just going through the motions, like, just like, okay, I'm here. Like, they're not receptive to help. Like, how are you able to, if you're able to, like, to reach in to get them to understand that, like, this isn't normal, this isn't a normal behavior. but they're just not receptive to.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, okay, well, I'm assigned to go to counseling, so I'm just gonna go.
Right. I mean, there's a few conversations coming out of that question, right? We're talking about
Yeah.
mandated clients, maybe a little bit, people who might I have to check in for my parole officer or something. That's
I mean, you have them out there. Let's be honest. Yeah.
But also, I was thinking about actually earlier with Ramona's comment, but colliding the two domains together. So I can't do it alone, right? So I try my best to motivate other people into communities. I often try in the first session early on, ask about faith, ask about religion. And I say, if it's something that's a source of comfort, I want to encourage that for you. I pray about it as well and come tell me about it. Or go see a family of people at a church, a congregation, someone who will receive you and welcome you, embrace you. Try and find that home. Or if it's a source of anxiety, as religion is for a lot of people, right? Practices people weren't comfortable with as kids, or maybe my parents were more devout than I am, and now I'm just spiritual, or I don't identify, or something. I get that a lot too. So I don't know, just encouraging people to reach out to community and be faithful.
Okay.
Is a big part of it.
And from my standpoint, if someone's wasting my time, then I have the luxury of not letting my time be wasted. I can say to that person, it seems that you have your mind made up.
Right.
And if that works for you, fine. I can say that because I'm not obligated to pacify their needs, desires, or wants. Either you're going to, this is for me, it's voluntary. So if they don't want to do it, then don't waste my time.
I mean, yeah, it sounds like partly it comes down to responsibility, right? And if these clients aren't motivated, they don't want to do the work. I could just, okay, well, you don't want to do the work. I could call them out on it and tough love them maybe. But also other people should be helping them out too, even if they need to go into a hospital, even if they need medication or whatever kind of jolt to their system to get them rolling. Maybe I'm not enough. Maybe they need something else. So I recognize the limitations there. That helps me again. It kind of goes back to self-care.
And it also could be sometimes personalities don't match. Just because the person may need the help, but maybe they're just not feeling me. So that's why having that network is good.
Yeah.
So maybe they're not feeling me, but they work with Joey. So it's good to have that network. It's like, I have this situation going on. This is what's going on. Maybe I can refer this person to you. And I think that's why that bridge, as you said earlier, is necessary between the faith-based community and the state-regulated community. I can't think of another way
Mental
to say
health,
it. Yeah, because like sometimes it takes that. It takes whatever the connection is, that needs to be made so that person can get in a better space.
How do you think? This is about to go on something else, but how do you think? What do you think the steps is to probably begin to merge that gap?
Yeah.
Who needs to talk to this person on the left side to the right side? How do we get that?
But I think it's more of like these two know each other.
Yeah.
So they're on like different ends of like assisting. So they can go back and forth with each other.
So it's a network within? But
Yes,
is
I
it
guess like
something?
building your network.
It is, however.
So it's nothing bigger. That's what I mean
It
by
is
that.
bigger. It's bigger from the standpoint of, because I'm not state regulated,
Yeah.
an agency won't refer someone to me per se. They will, like Joey said, if you have a faith-based community, why don't you meet with your community?
Okay.
They'll refer that way. They won't refer to a person.
Got
Like,
it.
because he
Many ways to skin a cat, huh?
right, and it's because when you're licensed by whatever entity it is, you don't want to put that at jeopardy.
Got it.
Understood. Just because he knows that I'm faith-based doesn't necessarily know the way I operate. So why would he put his client in jeopardy sending that person to me, not knowing, even though we're cool, not knowing if I'm going to do something that's going to damage the person even the more. So I understand why that gap is there.
Is it needed though?
It is the gap or the bridging.
The bridging is
the bridge
is needed.
And I'm gonna answer this not for you, but I'm gonna answer from the standpoint of I am a minister and I have a psychology degree.
Ooh, get 'em.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a bachelor's in psychology.
Yeah.
There are things I think because of the gifting in me that I see that sometimes textbook won't show you. Like I can see sometimes when a person's dealing with confidence issues, but they're not addressing their confidence when they go see Joey. And I'll hint, like sometimes because of what I do, like I think this person might be blah blah blah, and I leave it alone. That's my input.
Keyword might. That's all.
Right, and I say might because
that's the insurance word right there.
Because I could be
allegedly.
Off, but I'm basing it off of energy and psychology.
And
I'm
your
not.
education.
I'm not. That's what I meant by
Yeah.
psychology. I'm not doing it based off the fact that I'm sitting back and I'm like picking up all these vibes. It's not that. It's just that some things you can pick up from what people aren't saying. And I know textbook they have checks and balances. That isn't always empathetic, because someone told me I was an empath. I can feel some things sometimes that may be relevant, and if I do, I mention it to the clinician. But that's why I like being in the position that I am, where as far as I get to see or talk to the individual first before it's passed on to a clinician. So I can use both without literally being in the room, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because you're the front line. Like, you are the front line.
Front line's rough.
Yeah, front line is very, very rough. Wow, that's very...
But that's how I'm hoping I can help bridge that gap so that, it is not, there shouldn't be that gap between the church and the science of healing people. It should be a bridge, I think.
Yeah, there's no need that those two, entities should be at war with each other.
No.
I'm not trying to stray people away from the church and, into the office.
Right.
In fact, quite the opposite. If it's something, like I said, I have clients, even I brought it up and go, oh, I went to church for a while back there as an adult. Like, oh, did you like it? I did, but then I moved and I didn't find a new church or something. Would you be willing to try that out again, some Sunday? Well, I guess I'd have to get up early or whatever.
Yeah.
And you can go to Denny's afterwards, make a day of it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Try and encourage the two, and I hope and I like to think that church pastors, leaders, reverends, ministers, even other places of worship as well are encouraging their followers to say, maybe I'm not the only option. Maybe you can reach out to another community. I hope that they're encouraging and they're not saying this is the only answer.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't say I'm the only answer. Yeah.
Okay. So why do y'all think that it has been a gap? Like, we're talking about bridging the gap. So why has it been a gap for this long?
I think mainly because it's either or. So it's okay. Well, you take the medicine or you go to church.
Yeah.
Right.
Where what I'm hearing is it's really like a village or community effort. So if I can feel better, praying and being around people that will pray for me, with this issue, and then also talk with a clinician that will help me with some coping skills, and then give me, additional information. That's going to give me more tools where I can, deal with, the mental, or, the depression, or, whatever the mental, I don't want to say breakdown, but, whatever my issue is. And I'm seeing now that it's okay, I can talk with you. It doesn't necessarily have to be, about the Bible, but you can feed me spiritually. You can feed me you know, like mentally or socially,
Mm-hmm.
and you're giving me the tools to where like I can do multiple, because that's what it could be. Like it could be pieces
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
not just one,
Right.
you know, thing. Because I've seen people on medication and it's like they're not there, and I'm like, you know, like, hey, yeah, I took my medicine today. I'm like, oh, okay. And then when they're not on medicine, they're like all over, and I'm like, where's that like middle ground?
Every two
Like,
Fridays.
where is that, you know, that middle
That balance.
yeah, like the balance to where I'm like, okay, so if you take the medicine, you know, like, is it just numbing what's your
I mean, it's all parts of the whole, right? Like
Yeah.
I joke if there's some imaginary moment where we could be 100%, right?
Mhm.
Like, and we're operating at 40%, meaning we're less than 50%. We're depressed, we're shitty, you know?
Yeah.
And it's okay if I cuss, but medication maybe gives you 5%, 10%. It's not going to give you, you know, that 60% boost or
Yeah.
what have you. That's where you got to supplement with everything else. And
Yeah.
community, bring every other things. Wellness has multiple dimensions. Spirituality is one of them. Physical wellness, occupational wellness, professional wellness. Talk about all the different ways in which things aren't working, but also could work and are working. But yeah, medications. We're dealing with mental health. It's a soft science. It's an art and a science,
It
right?
is.
Yeah.
Try this one. I hope the side effects aren't so crazy. I hope you can sleep. I hope you're not having.
Call
vivid
me in 60
nightmares.
days. If
Right.
anything, let me know how this medication works.
Yeah, that's
And again,
the-
I'm not a medication expert,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't have that background either.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think part of the problem is from the spiritual side, the church side, the religious side. If you're seeing a therapist, then you're not trusting God. And that's
okay.
that stigma of
Yeah.
you're not trusting God keeps a lot of people who are religious from going to a therapist. And I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair for the person that's going through it. I don't think it's fair for their families that see them suffering. And I don't think it's fair to blanketly think that because a person can't deal with something that a label is necessary.
Correct.
I think so. The stigma from the faith-based community, I think, is even harsher
Yeah.
than the secular when it comes to mental health.
Yeah, my grandfather, he was a minister.
James Earl Gates.
James Robert Gates.
James Robert Gates, my bad.
That was James.
Yeah.
And so like growing up, you know, a lot of it was, you know, okay, you know, just pray about it. You know, I pray that you're gonna feel better, blah blah blah. And I distinctly remember, I had a headache like as a child. So like being at home, you know, my mother would give me the Bear, you know, children's aspirin. You know, it tastes like orange chalk, and I would, you know, sit down and watch TV for a minute, and it would go away. My grandmother was like, you know, she laid her hands on me and was like, you know, I pray that you feel better, you know, Lord, blah blah blah. And I'm like, where's the aspirin?
The whole time you need aspirin and water, and she up here praying.
Yeah. But then, you know, like as an adult,
Yeah.
you know, I look at it, you know, like both ways. So one, you know, all of their kids were grown, so they didn't have like children's medicine there. So like now I get that. But then as an adult, like I understand like her logic. You know, she didn't have Bear aspirin for kids, so what she had was her faith.
Right.
You know, and she rubbed my back, and like I went to sleep, and I woke up, and I didn't have a headache. So like I understand it now.
These
but
southern
then,
remedies, I tell you.
Yeah, I'm like, I just want to watch cartoons and like aspirin and some water. So, but I do feel that like a lot of times like it is like faith based. If you are in church, there is like a stigma attached to like talking to someone.
Did you
Other
want to
than
talk?
your pastor.
Huh?
Talking to someone other than your pastor.
Yeah, other than your pastor.
Because sometimes they be corrupt. That's
Oh,
why.
wow.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Oh yeah. Hey,
I mean, I do wonder about like what if belief about some kind of value means that you can't reach out for different support. I mean, I
It
even think
does.
about like Christian scientists, right? Like they're not allowed to reach for Advil
Exactly.
or Bayer or something.
Yeah.
They do rely on prayer to get through a headache, something like that. So
if you
what
don't
if-
pray me an aspirin and calm down. Yeah, like
So it is. It's like, because I was talking to one of my friends, and she was like, "Well, because our parents are from the South, we didn't do." And I was like, "Okay, like I get that, but I also feel that like the blessing can be in like the therapist or
The aspirin.
yeah.
exactly, yeah.
I mean, so I'm like, I get it. Like we're not just walking around and like, okay, now your blood pressure is low. You
Yeah.
have no cholesterol. you like we're not doing that. But I feel that I personally feel that all things are possible through Christ. So I'm not going to shortchange that. Now, how the blessing is delivered to me, like
Right.
I don't have a say so on that. So it could come from you. It could come from you. Or it could just come from, like a feeling where it's like, you know what, I am going to be okay. I'm going to get up every morning and I'm going to walk through this and I'm not going to, dwell in that. I think a lot of times, like, people take the medicine because they want to numb, like,
Yes.
the reality of, like, whatever it is. I walked into Walgreens up here on the corner of Liberty and Milford Mill, and this guy, he looked straight through me, like he was so high. And I looked at him and he was so young, and I'm like, and then he got it together. He was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I said, "No, you're okay." I was like, "You're going to be okay." And he was like, "I hope so." And he just walked in. And I was like, "No, you're going to be okay." And I stood there for a minute and I was like, God, like, what is it that is going on in people's lives that they don't even want to, like, be cognizant?
Be present.
Yeah, because, like, I don't like that feeling. Like, I don't like not knowing what's going on around me.
Well, I like the point that you made about kind of being hopeful and like, oh, he said, I hope so. Like maybe that was enough for him to move on or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what faith does for people, right?
It does.
Yeah.
Even in the afterlife, if I go to heaven or if there's some kind of gift for me, that builds hope. And then I get something I'm working towards. Maybe that's what people are needing. Some kind of hope, something to believe in.
Yeah.
And sometimes if it's not coming fast enough, that creates another level of anxiety and or depression because of our microwave society that wants everything to happen like
Yes.
right now. I
Yes.
want to be able to time it. I want to be able to say when it's going to happen.
Microwave society.
It is.
But it's so true.
it
Yeah,
is.
I say that about and I say that about like my younger two kids. I'm like, you expect everything to happen like because you said so. Like, a job is not going to pay you everything that you need to pay your bills. Like, you have to, like, if you have to get multiple jobs or you have to, get certified in something else where you can command more money. And I think they're seeing, excuse me, I think they're seeing it now because they have car payments. They have,
The biggest motivator.
insurance. So it's like, they're understanding. And like I told my youngest son, I'm like, you're making now what I made when I had all three of you.
Jesus.
I'm like, so.
Yeah,
I'm
like
I
99, huh?
I'm like, I don't understand. Like, why do you feel entitled? Like, it's just everything. Like, okay, they're seeing things on social media where it's like, oh, okay, Friday night. We're gonna turn up. We're gonna do this, and it's like sometimes turning up is just like being at home and watching, being able to watch TV, cable TV.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And to add what you said about I'm not a medication manager either, and I'm prefacing it with that I'm not a medication manager, but from the spiritual side of it, what happens when we ingest anything in our body, it only affects our flesh, our muscles, our nerves, our brain waves. It only affects that. But spiritually, that thing is still active.
Yes.
So that's why I think having a spiritual connection is necessary, because once that numbness wears off, the activity of the spiritual side of you is still active. And I think that therapy, whether it's through Joey or a professional spiritual counselor, helps you to deal with the part of you, your subconscious, whatever you want to label it. It helps you to control the activity of that side of it, so that you don't have to rely on numbing my flesh, so I don't have to feel what's happening spiritually in me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and that's hard to, even in the faith-based community, that's an area of controversy, because not everyone believes that. Not everyone believes there's a spiritual connection, inner and outer, that controls or can manipulate or whatever. But if you do have that type of connection, then those are the people you want to seek out when you need to turn that down, especially if it's a negative energy. You need something that can turn that down and slow it down and medicate anyway, whether it's drugs, alcohol, prescribed or unprescribed. Being connected to that is necessary, and that's usually done through talk therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy, or something that helps you control you.
But we're not going to the aspect of like, well, first you have to recognize those signs before you even go. So like, I guess from either professional or spiritual level, everyone may not be in tune with themselves to recognize those signs. So it's like with me, it's this book, I forgot, but it's just like identifying your anti-self or whatnot. So I know when I get down and out, I name myself is like characterless Chris. Like if you know me, I like to have fun. I'm very joyous and things of that nature. I love to travel. I love to eat. I just love being adventurous. But if I'm not, if I go down that road, it's characterless Chris. It took me 28 years, 29 years to realize, okay, if you're not happy, if you're not joyous, this is your anti-self. So it's overall, be all, it's the recognition. It's that all word. You have to recognize it within yourself, but everyone isn't aware of the recognition.
Yeah, that's true.
Recognizing, there you go.
Yeah.
Recognition. There we go.
And I can pick that up, because when I came down here last Sunday and you were just like, yeah, I'm like, okay, I'll just
I was hurting.
Because I'm not used to seeing him that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's more of just like I can, like when I connect with people, like I can pick it up like immediately. One of my friends, I call her and she's like, hey, I'm like, stop being phony. Like, what's, like, where are you at? What's going on? and then she'll just, have word vomit, and I'm like, okay, but like, and I can feel like when people are, I'm like, okay, let me go ahead and check on them.
You're picking up on when people are low, right?
But what about for you to recognize within yourself though?
Yeah,
do you
and
think
I
it's kind
can't.
of hard to do that, to come to the face to face to be
Yeah.
like, I'm down and out.
Yeah, like I know, like for me, like I can, and it's like, and that's why I'll just make up places to go. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, like, yeah, I can order all this stuff off Amazon, but then it's like, no, let me do my hair, let me, do my makeup, let me put on something, and like go out and just be out. Um, and then it's like, and then when I'm out and I'm like people watching, and I'm like, okay, like, it wasn't that bad. Like, it's not. But I think like all of us get to that point where it's like, because we're so used to, like the lights, camera, action of, okay, like you see this online, but like where's this in real life? And then like,
Yeah.
when you like you if you never come across that, like it's like, okay, so why are people having like so much fun and I'm not? Like I thought that was like, I've never been like a club person. Like and it's crazy. Me and my cousin were like, we would see people, like go to the club.
And that was right across the street from my great
From my
grandfather's house.
house.
Like
So I was
literally.
like, gosh, everybody is over there. And I was like, okay, like, we would get dressed and go. And I'm like, this is whack. Like, we're standing in the middle, like, it's music playing. I love music. I talk in song all the time. Like, when I'm talking to, like, various people, I will quote, like, rap lyrics. And I'm like, this is not fun. Like, to me, like, I don't get this. But like traveling, I'm like, oh yeah, like this is, this is my thing. And
Yeah, I think it takes like knowing yourself, right? Knowing, recognizing when you're characterless, Chris, or recognizing when, okay, for some people recharging might be going out to the club or something, but for you maybe it's relocating to get a weekend, getting a getaway.
yeah, I like to just, I'm like, when I see that my kids are not themselves, I'm like, okay, so how are you? Like, what's going on? Like, blah, blah, blah. And, like, now I've learned to turn that internally. Like, okay, so I got to get out of this house. I love my house. Like, this has always been my dream. I'm not the person that, like, always has to have people around. So, like, that's never going to be it for me. But
Yeah.
but yeah, when I do recognize, when I recognize that, okay, like I'm getting, like kind of low.
Low vibrations.
Yeah, like I try to, like I'll just people watch and like see like little kids running and then think back to, like my kids when they were that age, and that will, build me, back up. And then it's like, okay, like I'm starting to feel like more like myself again.
Yeah, I mean, self-care, like you said, looks different for everyone, right?
Yes.
How do you recharge? Some people go to church and it's recharging for them. Some people it feels again like I got to get out of bed early. Whatever works for you.
Yeah.
And for me, I like to get my hands in the dough. I like to cook. I like to make pasta. That's how I take care of myself sometimes after a stressful week. Like, I know that about myself. And I also recognize, okay, I'm feeling a little low. Can I make it till my next day off or whatever? What can I give myself tonight? How can I get through the next shift or whatever? We all kind of have to ask ourselves those questions. I think it's cool to think about, too, that life takes us on lots of different journeys, right? We never know what's going to bring and what's going to drain us, but there's never also a point when we're at that 100%. We're never really cured of depression. It comes and goes in waves.
Yes. Yeah, healing isn't linear. Hold on. That's it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, healing isn't linear. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, life changes.
I don't got no more
you
after
know,
that, but
relationships shift. Sometimes people die. I mean, things pull at us.
yeah.
And you can be in a really great spot, and then all of a sudden feel like you've fallen from your tower or something like that. It happens.
Yeah, I call it, the analogy I gave is like seesawing. When you're a kid, you're seesawing and you're at the top and someone jumps off and leave you and you hit the ground.
Yeah.
And it's like, what just
Right.
happened?
I bruised my tailbone. Yeah.
What is, and then after you pick the dust off and you roll over, you cry a little bit, and then you have to like deal with all the other emotional impact of why that person let me fall. You know, why didn't I see it coming? The why question starts again. So yeah, so you need to know what it takes for you. I like the fact that you can cook and that takes you. Mine's a little bit more detailed than that,
Pasta
but
on deck.
no, that's
Right.
right.
I mean, just one of the things I reach for, right? I often say, too, if we reach for the same tool, even with the same person, same confidant, we reach for the same tool over and over again, it's going to lose its sharpness. It's going to lose its luster.
Yeah.
You got to make sure you have a lot of things available at your disposal, things you can reach for. You know, so cooking's one of them. I like to do lots of other things. I'm, happy to be here just talking about it. This feels energizing to me.
Yeah. So this probably gets me into my next question. What are y'all thoughts about traditional therapy versus new age therapy? And what I mean by new age therapy is the online therapy where you can like FaceTime or video versus the face to face of seeing like social cues and mannerisms.
Yeah, cyber counseling, telemedicine.
Yeah.
What do we think about?
Well, teletherapy.
Are there
Same
virtual?
thing.
I guess I'm also wondering too, in the same kind of question. Are there virtual like churches? Do people like have
Yes.
like group chats for Christ kind of thing?
Yes.
I've never even thought about that.
I don't like it.
Like,
I don't like virtual therapy. I did it for a year. I'm a veteran.
Recipient or
I was going through therapy virtually with a teletherapist.
Oh,
My
okay.
therapist was in Pennsylvania and I was in Delaware, and we would meet twice a month via big screen TV. I didn't like it because it does take the personal connection out. People can put on what a persona. It's almost like dating online. I hate to put it like that because you can kind of put on any persona you want to because the person's not in a room with you.
Understood.
And unless they're a psychic, they'll never figure out what's really going on with you because they're not picking up anything except for what you're telling them.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that
certain
face-to-face
twitches you may
too,
have, and
but it's not the same. I mean, I was in therapy with her for over a year, and she didn't even know I was in a relationship with anybody because she never asked. I mean, you know, what asked me, I'm not going to tell you about it. But
Yeah.
I think if we had been face to face, it probably would have been something else. The only person I saw face to face was the med manager, and I saw him twice. But therapy online, I don't like it. Church online, I don't like it. The last church I was a member of, we did a weekly Bible study via teleconference, and I'm telling you, I got nothing from it because I'm a busybody. I was cooking dinner, I was watching TV.
Right, is your
It was
focus
too
there.
distracting for me. Some people love it. I can tune it out. If it's not right in front of me, in my face, I'm tone deaf to it. So that's my personal preference. I think it works for some people that are busy and they can't drive back and forth or don't have the transportation to go back and forth. But for me, it wasn't effective either.
Yeah, I like-
Telechurch or teletherapy.
I do like the concept of kind of access and means, right? So if you're in
Yeah.
some small community, maybe there's some kind of special service or somewhere someone can reach out to you across state lines who specializes in something that you're dealing with. Maybe your child has a certain illness that no one else knows about or something. I don't know. But so that's cool. But yeah, for me, I can't imagine talking to a laptop in order to talk to a person or what have you. There's so many cues the words can only give you. And I also think about, I'm kind of would be scared for them. Like, what if our connection got lost? What if they were crying? I wouldn't be in the room to be able to give them a tissue. I wouldn't be able to ensure that they don't just end call and then, find the
Right.
nearest window. I don't know.
yeah.
Right.
So is it more of because I didn't think of it like in that aspect. I was thinking of it more of, okay, you would normally meet with them like face to face, and then if they needed you, then you being
check-ins.
available.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
maintenance, for people who might not be severely ill, mentally ill or something, there could be a good benefit in that. Let's check in, say, hey, I'm good, and then I'll see you in a month. That makes sense.
Yeah,
For
but
people-
your regular
Right.
every
Yeah, I
Tuesday
wouldn't-
at 2:00.
Because it
Didn't work
is.
for
It is like, because I would feel like
It's
like
impersonal.
they're sending their representative. So it's like, okay, I got this meeting, with her on, FaceTime. So let me get it together. So you put on your best face, but socially, like you're tapping your leg, you're like tearing up pieces of paper because like you're still not getting what you need. I know, like we have a feature, and I love it. It's called Med Online, and like you talk to the doctor on FaceTime.
Okay.
And I was rubbing my eye, and cause like being down in this basement, like with the cat, like triggers my allergy. So I'm like rubbing my eye, and then I woke up and it was like swollen. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna work from home today. Then, I took the Benadryl and the cold compress, and still it didn't go down. So I did the Med Online. She's like, oh, you have blah, blah, blah. I looked it up, and I'm like, okay, like she's right. Like these are my symptoms. This is how I feel physically. She called in a prescription. I went to go get it, put the prescription on, and I'm like, I was in the middle of a project. So it's like, okay,
It's convenient.
Yeah, it was convenient. So I wouldn't do it like for like my regular, but like just for something, like if I needed to talk to you, or like if I needed like, okay, I'm stressing about this, like, what is it? Or like, how can I, navigate through this?
I think I get a little nervous that it's a step towards like automating that service, like a symptom checklist kind of thing. And before you know it, a robot's just going to spit out a pill, or I've even heard about apps that are like mental health focused, and they're kind of Siri or Alexis informed or whatever. Sorry, I don't know if that's the software they're
How
using.
are you feeling today?
Right. You tell them, I'm feeling blue. Oh, here's some resources for you. I don't know.
Yeah.
You can't replace the human variable.
No.
Right?
Yeah, especially like in this aspect. So I do respect you guys, for that. I guess my thought process was like, how could you even connect with someone that you've never really, like been in a room with? Like, it's like, that's a delicate, like we have this is a delicate interaction.
It is.
I mean, let me bring another twist to it even. Like, okay, so think about it. Okay, they're in their own house or whatever, and they're conferencing with a therapist. It doesn't change the context, right? We're talking about what people do. At least if they come to my office, it got them out of their house, maybe out of their clutter, depression. Maybe they got old pizza boxes in there or something. I don't know. I haven't seen their house. But then they come to my space, and it's neutral. It's different.
Maybe
Hopefully
cleaner.
calming, hopefully soothing. And it's a different space to think about your thoughts. You're
Different
removed from
ambiance.
them. You can observe yourself with a little bit of distance. You can't replace that. I don't know.
Yeah, and I just for me it didn't work. It just didn't.
Yeah, that wouldn't have worked for me either.
And the strange thing was,
You find yourself like crying in the room.
And then you're
I
all
could do
alone.
that by myself.
I know.
I didn't have to get in my car and go anywhere to do that.
Oh,
like
okay,
I could
yeah.
just, and I think we need to be mindful of what we're feeling too. For example, for that time period was a rough time for me because I was going through so many different levels of mourning that the personal connection was really what I needed versus a television screen. And
It's like you watch YouTube videos.
yeah,
like,
and then you're still getting the demand of other people on your life. So I was pouring out and I was suffering, and I needed to
And
be
you
poured
still-
into.
Yeah.
And even my leadership at that time was unable to reach me. They couldn't reach me because they were reaching at me from, this is a hard one too. When you're in leadership, leaders expect you to be able to self-medicate.
That is the hardest. The 2 M's, mourn and move on.
They expect you to pray, fast. It's a part of life. Go back on to your next thing.
Yep.
And
Take these orders.
And that's the hard part about ministry that I think is very different from the secular, for lack of better terminology, side of it. They expect what you're able to do, this and this, but they don't see. I don't think people saw how much I poured out during that time. I was mentally and physically drained,
And emotionally.
done.
Yeah.
And everyone that called me wanted something.
Yeah. That's so
And I was just done. I was done with people. I was done. I wasn't suicidal, but I was done.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to deal with anybody. I didn't want to take any medication. I didn't want any out. I just wanted to literally just ball up in a corner by myself.
You needed solitude.
And then to go on and talk to her on a TV every 2 weeks
Not enough.
just was not enough.
Like this
So that's what
bitch.
you have to
Can't fill your well if it's between a screen.
you just there's no way to describe that other than what it was. So knowing yourself helps knowing what will work for you.
Okay. I mean, so
That's
there
what
ain't
I was
nothing wrong
getting
with
at.
it. It's just, you know, if
Yeah.
it works for you, it works for you. If it don't,
Exactly.
it don't.
yeah, just knowing.
Just
you know,
like, you gotta be like realistically knowing too as well.
But I will say
'cause-
try it because it may work for you.
yeah.
It just didn't work for
I mean, there are multiple ways to the same goal, right? As you said, many ways to skin a cat. It's a terrible,
Yeah.
weird expression, but
I don't know.
poor cat.
It's
Yeah.
an
we have a
old
cat.
southern. It's an old southern thing. My mom used to say that all
It's
the
to try
time.
lots of different things and see what
Yeah.
sticks. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think like also with that is like the key component that is missed in like that concept is, you know, taking the time. Like you have to take the time for yourself. So you have to take the time to drive
Sure.
to that. So don't multitask, you know, with this. You know, like especially with your mental health. Like you have to be
Oh, I like that. Don't multitask with your mental health.
Yeah,
Oh,
It's a
you have to
commitment,
be
yeah.
100% committed. I know when my mother passed away, my boss was a complete.
They were insensitive to
Yeah,
your needs.
and something told me to just, you know, like stay grounded. And also it was, you know, I would be at work until 11 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And then
Wow.
coming, you know, back in at 7 and like doing the whole thing. And I tried to go on vacation. I know you're in Vegas, but I just need to, you know, ask you a question. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm in Vegas. You know, it's 3 hours. It's 6 o'clock here. So I took steps, you know, where like I pulled back. Yeah, I'm going to be off for a week. Oh, so what are you doing? Not really sure yet. You know, so I'm not telling you so you can, you know, so you know exactly what I'm doing. I started to go on cruises because then I had to mentally and physically disconnect. And like within a short time of my mother passing, her father passed away.
Wow.
So, and she was going through the same thing that she put me through was the same thing that her boss put her through.
Interesting.
So, and then she would call to me to vent. And I'm looking at the phone like, lady, like, are you
Well,
serious?
maybe it increased her empathy with your experience, right?
Yeah, I was like, okay. I was like, well, I mean, I'm sorry, I have to go. Like, and I started leaving on time. Like, sorry, I have to leave on time.
Boundaries are an important part of that
Yeah,
commitment, right?
and that's
To
what I
yourself and
started
knowing
to
what you
set
can
up,
and can't
like,
have.
you know, boundaries, and, just letting her know, okay, okay, well, it's unfortunate, but I'm not able to, blah blah blah. And she's like, oh, because I had always been like, oh, sure,
Been that go-to.
yeah. And it's like, if something happened to me, someone else would do it. So let me just create the boundary where I'm not available, and then someone else can still do it.
Yeah, because you don't even value me at this point.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that was one of the conversations that I had with her. My company, they love information, but I told them, I said, to me, this is just pointless because you're not utilizing and you're not going to react on the information.
Wow.
So they were like, well, no, we're changing. And I'm like, it doesn't really mean anything. What you're saying to me, because I know that you're not going to do anything. I give you this feedback. 2 weeks, you're going to change. We come in from the weekend, and then you're back to whatever. It's like a bad Lifetime movie. But it's okay because I get paid to be here, but I'm also going to create, these boundaries that have to take place just for the sanity of me. But I think that, a lot of times people don't really understand what they're doing until they're in that exact same situation. And when they get to that situation,
it takes some awareness, right?
Yes.
Some ability to self-reflect and focus, and I don't know. I mean, I often joke with clients too, even like, unfortunately in the English language, I don't know if there's a word when we say like selfish, it has a negative connotation, right? But like self-full or like self-focused, like it's okay to turn inward, focus on yourself, see what you need. After your mom passed, you probably needed more time to yourself, and your boss was just demanding more from you. You didn't have that focus. It was taken from you, and so you had to reassert it.
yes.
I'm in Vegas. I need this time.
Yeah, I just need
I got 10 on black. Why you calling me?
Right. I just need lights, camera, action
Ruins
right now.
the streak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it is, and I think a lot of what I've learned, like just this year, is like just ownership. Just, like understanding that sometimes your best is just not good enough, and that's okay.
Yeah. Because it may not be okay at the moment because some people may not recognize it or whatnot. It could be the best 2 days from now. You know?
Or this is all that I have to offer.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's all I have to offer. There's nothing wrong with that, like you said. So.
I mean, that there sounds like a good way to bridge those two communities, right? Recognizing we're imperfect and recognizing that that's okay. I mean, you might say like, it's part of our mortality or something, but it's also, it will never be perfect. Perfection's a myth.
Yeah.
It's, at least in this
That's
form.
not true in the Christian faith. We're all perfect.
Well, okay. Yes, I just mean
I'm saying that sarcastically. I'm not
Hey, I'm
saying
about to
it
say, Dan,
genuinely.
hey, I'm about to turn Christian. I better get an 850 credit score then. Like, hey, let's go for it.
I'm saying that sarcastically, of course.
I don't think I have any more questions. It's been a good podcast. I really like the don't multitask your mental health. I think that's the end-all basis for this, because we do live in a very high tempo society right now with social media, technology, and it's like, what used to take 3 days to get information in the 90s or in the 80s or the 70s, it takes about 0.3 seconds to get. So it can be very overwhelming. Mental conditions like anxiety has become very prevalent because of social media. Depression has become very prevalent because of social media and technology alone. So I think we kind of all just need to kind of step back on that. And, it does has its uses. But, anything that's good has its bad, and vice versa. Anything that's bad has its
Anything in
good.
excess.
Gary,
Yeah.
Gary say too much of anything is never good.
Yeah, so just take care of yourself.
Yeah, and take it care of yourself to the full extent.
Right.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take care of myself 30%. Then I'm gonna go party. Then I'm gonna go do this, go do that. I'm not saying nothing wrong with that, but if you want to take care of yourself, go full fledged with it. That's not BS. That's not multitasking. Cause
And allow others to support you and take care of you too.
you allow others to support and take
Yeah.
care of yourself
I
as
like
well.
the self-care.
Self care.
Like finding multiple self-care options and opportunities.
Oh.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good
And
takeaway.
and a lot of self-care options, with saying that, don't cost anything.
Yes.
You know, people assume that it's going to cost a whole bunch of money, but there are lists of self-care options that are free. So the library is free. If you like to read, don't buy everything. Go to the library.
Yeah, if you don't have access to professional counseling services, you can't find a faith center, some place that's close that feels affirming, recognize that there are also more options still. Taking a walk in the park, going to the library, and take a few deep breaths.
And I also
Take a
wanna-
bubble bath.
Yeah, take a bubble bath. But I also want to point out, a lot of people don't know, since we all talking about therapy, a lot of people don't know about the pro bono.
Pro bono counseling.
Pro bono counseling is free counseling.
Yeah, and there are also kind of hotlines. There are telemedicine, certain
Yeah.
virtual
Yeah.
resources
What's the other
available.
one?
Sliding scale? Oh, no.
And also-
American Psychiatric Group.
Yeah,
American Psychiatric
APG.
APG is in Baltimore, Towson.
Yeah.
They're for people that are underinsured, as well as people have insurance.
Yeah, I encourage people to just be curious about all their options are. I mean, it might be more available than they think. Maybe it's part of their insurance package or something they didn't realize. Even clients on medical assistance,
Right.
a certain population, everyone can kind of get access to some kind of support. We don't have to go through these things alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just stay curious.
Yeah, that's me. I know when I moved to Baltimore, like I didn't know like the proximity of places. So like if it was a agency that like I thought could have benefited from like whatever, I would call and I would ask them, okay, well, what types of services do you provide, and where are you in proximity to Woodlawn? Because that's where I lived with my dad at the time. And when I would talk to people, they were like, "Oh, no one has ever asked us, blah blah blah." They would give me, like
Tons
a
of
slew
info.
of information.
Great.
And I'm like, oh, okay. So like people that I had met here, when I would tell them, oh, okay, well if you need that, you can go here. They're like, how do you know? I'm like, I would get up every morning and just look through the blue pages and the yellow pages.
Yikes. A lot
And
of my
just-
listeners don't know what that is.
Right.
Oh yeah, sorry, well whatever. But that's what I did in 1991.
Exactly.
But I mean, you never know, like what is available, and some of these programs get underfunded because they're not being utilized. So
Exactly.
that's why,
So I want to spread awareness to them. So you got Maryland 211 as well.
Yes.
I didn't know about that.
And the National
Yeah.
Suicide Hotline is available as well if you're in crisis. Of course, always remember you can reach out to your emergency room. Hospitals will help you if you're dealing with mental illness. There are lots of ways to get support.
Yeah. Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and then for all my vets, my veterans 22. You can do that. It's the veteran community. We are very, very. Our numbers are very, very high within the
Yes, they
suicide.
are.
The suicide realm is sad. Being out the military, I understand why it can be. I just think right now with my situation that's going on, right now is for me to use this lesson in life for later on and to teach now. So I'm gonna have some stories to tell, basically, to probably kind of help mitigate that. The lessen, the decrease the numbers of veteran suicide. Somehow, some way, I'm gonna get it done. Now, I ain't gonna say I got the answers overnight, but I think the lessons that I'm going through right now will help out later on somehow, and the people I meet.
Amen.
Yeah. Y'all got any last words?
Yeah, just thank you for having me. This was a really cool conversation.
Yes, it
just
was
to,
a cool conversation.
Do you want to shout your potential
Yes.
platform out that's coming out soon?
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Starting the month of October, Let's Talk About It will be a podcast on Anchor. We have a lineup of some very, very, very interesting topics. I have a young lady that's coming on next week who used to be a stripper and now she's a pastor.
Uh-oh.
I have a lady coming on I'm prior military too, shout out for DC Air National Guard, but one of my previous bosses she's going to speak to us about breast cancer awareness. She's a breast cancer survivor. Have a speaker coming on talk about child diabetes.
Oh, wow.
And the fourth one is to be determined, but we're going to talk about some stuff, and it's not going to be your typical religious program. Let's just say it that way. So
Hey,
stay tuned.
I love it. Let's talk about it, huh?
Let's talk about it.
Thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of Unpredictable Thoughts Podcast. Also want to give a shout out to everybody that's been purchasing merchandise for the Keep That Same Energy sweatshirts and tank tops. Also got the natural hats for all my ladies that got the big volume of hair, the big curly hair. You know, I got the hats that help that out. Also, if you got dreads as well, that help out. Just thank y'all for supporting the movement. This is another episode of Unpredictable Thought Podcast. Your boy Troubles. Peace.